You wake up, alarm screaming. You silence it. Again. The same ceiling, the same routine. Shower, coffee, commute, work. Tasks that were urgent yesterday are urgent today, will be urgent tomorrow. You finish one project, another appears. The inbox never empties. The to-do list never ends. Evening, scroll, eat, sleep. Tomorrow, repeat. And somewhere in the middle of this, maybe while sitting in traffic or staring at your screen or lying awake at 3 in the morning, a question creeps in. What's the point? Not in a dramatic way, not with tears or crisis, just, what's the point of all this effort, all this pushing if it never actually goes anywhere, if the boulder just rolls back down and you have to start again tomorrow? Most people push that question away, distract themselves, find hope in something, a promotion, a relationship, a vacation, a purpose, a belief that it will all mean something eventually. But what if it won't? What if there is no final meaning waiting at the top of the mountain? What if the boulder will always roll back down? But what if the point isn't to escape the boulder, but to push it differently? In 1942, in Nazi-occupied France, a young journalist and philosopher named Albert Camus asked this question seriously. And his answer wasn't despair. It was something far stranger. He said, "One must imagine Sisyphus happy. If you've never heard of Sisyphus, keep watching. You will." Let me tell you about absurdity. Not the casual kind, not "that's absurd" when something is silly or ridiculous. Camus meant something specific and devastating. The absurd is the confrontation between two incompatible truths. First truth: you are a creature that demands meaning. You cannot help it. You wake up and ask, why? What for? To what end? You build narratives, seek patterns, construct purposes. You need your life to mean something. It's not optional, it's how your mind works. Second truth: the universe does not answer. It does not care. It offers no inherent meaning, no cosmic purpose, no ultimate justification. You can ask the stars why you exist, and they will not respond. You can demand that your suffering serve some greater plan, and the silence will be absolute. The absurd is the collision between your need for answers and the universe's refusal to provide them. It is you shouting into the void and hearing only your own echo. It's like realizing you're on a treadmill that never stops. No matter how hard you run, you stay in place, yet somehow you can't stop running. Now, most people cannot live with this, so they do one of three things. They hope, they construct meaning, God, destiny, progress, legacy, the belief that it will all make sense eventually, that their boulder is actually going somewhere even if they can't see it yet. They despair. They conclude that if nothing means anything, then nothing matters. Nihilism. Why push the boulder at all? Why not just step aside? Or they distract. They stay so busy, so entertained, so comfortably numb that they never have to face the question. Scroll, consume, optimize, stay in motion, so you never have to stop and feel the weight of meaninglessness. Camus rejected all three. He said, face the absurd directly. Do not look away. Do not invent false hope. Do not collapse into despair. Do not numb yourself. Live in full awareness that nothing means anything, and choose to live passionately anyway. This is what he called the absurd revolt. But to understand why this isn't just sophisticated nihilism, why this was seen by some as a form of profound freedom, we need to meet the man who became Camus' hero. We need to meet Sisyphus. The ancient Greeks told a story about a king named Sisyphus. He was clever, too clever. He cheated death twice, tricked the gods, revealed their secrets. And for this arrogance, for this defiance of divine order, Zeus devised the perfect punishment. Sisyphus was condemned to push a massive boulder up a steep mountain. When he reached the summit, the boulder would roll back down. He would descend and push it up again. Forever. No progress, no escape, no end. Just the eternal repetition of futile effort. The Greeks meant this as the ultimate horror. Meaningless labor forever. A curse worse than death, because death at least is final. Sisyphus must endure the knowledge that nothing he does will ever matter, and he must do it forever. For 2,000 years, this myth was understood as pure tragedy, until Camus read it differently. In 1942, while living under Nazi occupation, while friends were being executed in the resistance, while Europe tore itself apart in mechanized slaughter, Camus wrote an essay called The Myth of Sisyphus. And he said something shocking. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. How? Because Sisyphus knows. He knows the boulder will fall. He knows his effort is futile. He knows there is no hidden purpose, no redemption coming, no meaning to be found. And in that knowledge, he is free. Free from hope, which is just delayed disappointment. Free from the need for his suffering to be justified. It won't be. Free from the crushing weight of expectation. There is nothing to expect. The universe has condemned him to push a boulder. Fine, he will push it. Not because it means something, but because it is what he has to do, and he chooses to do it with everything he has. This is revolt, not revolution. Revolt. Revolution seeks to change the system, to win, to make things mean something. Revolt is the act of saying, I know you've given me a meaningless task. I know the boulder will fall. I know I will never win, and I will push it anyway. Fully aware, fully alive, with intensity, with passion, with everything I am. That is the absurd revolt. Every day, millions of us wake up and push our digital boulders, spreadsheets, deadlines, code, content, and watch them roll back by morning. We are all, in a way, Sisyphus with Wi-Fi.
Camus wasn't writing from a comfortable university office. He was 29 years old. The Nazis occupied his country. He was working as a journalist for the underground resistance newspaper Combat, risking execution every time he published. Friends were disappearing into camps. The world had descended into mechanized horror on a scale never seen before. And he had already faced his own death once, at 17 in Algeria, born into grinding poverty, his mother illiterate and nearly deaf, his father dead in the First World War. Camus was diagnosed with tuberculosis. In 1930, this was often a death sentence. He was told he had maybe a few years, maybe less. Imagine being 17 and hearing that your life might already be over. He didn't retreat, he didn't despair. He threw himself into life, football, swimming in the Mediterranean, lying in the sun, journalism, theatre, philosophy, love affairs, many of them reckless and intense. He lived like someone who understood that every moment might be the last, so every moment had to be felt. This wasn't philosophy, it was survival, but it shaped everything he would later write, because Camus understood in his bones what most philosophers only theorize. Life doesn't owe you meaning. It will end, probably sooner than you'd like, and between now and then, it will be hard and repetitive and often pointless. So what do? Do you wait for it to mean something? Do you invent a story to make the suffering bearable? Or do you live so fully in the present that meaning becomes irrelevant? After the war, after the camps were liberated and the scale of the horror revealed, Camus wrote in The Myth of Sisyphus. There is only one really serious philosophical question, and that is suicide. Deciding whether or not life is worth living is to answer the fundamental question of philosophy. He wasn't being grim, he was being honest. If life is meaningless, why continue? What justifies the effort? And his answer was not, because it will mean something later. His answer was, because the effort itself, the act of living fully in a meaningless universe, is the only thing we truly have, and that is enough. This is not nihilism. Nihilism says, nothing matters, so why bother? Absurdism says, nothing matters, so you are free to create your own intensity, your own passion, your own joy in the face of the void. The universe gives you a boulder. You choose to push it, not for meaning, but for the aliveness of the push. Camus built absurdism on three pillars, three responses to the absurd condition. Revolt. Not political revolution, not anger. Revolt is the refusal to accept the absurd passively. The universe offers you meaninglessness. You say, I see it, I acknowledge it, and I refuse to live as though that's all there is. You don't invent fake meaning. You don't pretend the boulder is going somewhere, but you also don't collapse into apathy. You push, fully aware, defiantly alive. Revolt is waking up and going to work even though you know the inbox will never be empty. Not because the work is meaningful, but because you choose to show up, to engage, to be present. Revolt is loving someone even though you know they will die. And you will die. and every moment is temporary. Not despite the impermanence, but because of it. Revolt is creating art that no one may see, writing words that may never matter, building something that will eventually crumble, and doing it anyway, because the act of creation is yours. Freedom. This is the strangest freedom. Sisyphus is condemned to push a boulder forever. He has no choice about the task. But in knowing that the task is meaningless, he becomes free from the tyranny of outcome. He doesn't push the boulder hoping it will stay at the top. He doesn't torture himself with, if only I pushed harder, maybe this time. He knows it will fall. Always. Like a runner who knows he'll never win, yet finds liberation in the rhythm of his breath. And that knowledge is liberating, because if the boulder will fall no matter what, then the only thing that matters is how you push. You are free to push with intensity, with care, with joy even, free from the weight of expectation, free from the disappointment of failure. There is no success to fail at, free from the exhausting hope that this time it will be different. This is the freedom of the condemned man who knows his fate and stops struggling against it. You will age. You will lose people you love. Your work will be forgotten. Your accomplishments will fade. You will die. And eventually, so will everyone who remembers you. You cannot change this. So you are free to stop pretending otherwise. Free to live in the present, unburdened by the illusion that it's all building towards something. Passion. And here is where Sisyphus becomes happy. Not content, not peaceful. Happy. Passion for Camus isn't a flame of purpose. It's a fire that burns simply because it burns. Because when you are no longer waiting for life to mean something, you are free to experience it fully. Sisyphus feels the strain in his muscles as he pushes, the texture of the stone, the burn in his lungs at the summit, the cool breeze on his face, the satisfaction of the effort, even knowing it leads nowhere. He walks back down the mountain, and Camus says this is the crucial moment, the descent, when Sisyphus is fully conscious of his condition. And in that consciousness, he is not defeated, he is alive. He returns to the boulder, and he pushes again, not because he must, but because this is his boulder, and this is his mountain, and this is his life. Passion is not about meaning, it's about intensity. It's drinking your coffee in the morning and actually tasting it, rather than gulping it on autopilot. It's having a conversation and being fully present, rather than half listening while your mind plans the next thing. It's working on something difficult and feeling the struggle, the frustration, the small victories, the failures, all of it, completely. Camus lived this way, chain-smoking, writing through the night, affairs that burned bright and brief, plunging into the Mediterranean at dawn, playing football with reckless joy despite his damaged lungs. He was not a perfect man. He was not even by many accounts a particularly good man in his personal life. But he was ferociously, defiantly alive, and that, for him, was the point. Not to be good, not to be meaningful, but to be alive in the face of a universe that offers nothing but silence.
On January 4th, 1960, Albert Camus was travelling from the south of France back to Paris. He had a train ticket in his pocket. He'd planned to take the train, but his publisher, Michel Gallimard, offered him a ride in his new sports car. Camus accepted. They were driving too fast. A tyre blew. The car veered off the road, struck a tree. Camus died instantly. He was 46 years old. In his briefcase, the unfinished manuscript of The First Man, a novel he considered his most important work. He never got to finish it. In his pocket, the unused train ticket. If he'd taken the train, he would have lived. A random choice, a moment of chance, meaningless. His death is almost too perfect, almost cruel in its irony. And maybe that's why it's perfect. Even in death, the universe kept its silence, just as Camus always said it would. The philosopher of the absurd, killed by pure absurdity. No grand meaning, no poetic justice, just a tyre, a tree, and a life ended mid-sentence. And maybe, just maybe, Camus would have appreciated that, because his philosophy was never about escaping the absurd. It was about facing it. He didn't get to finish his work. He didn't get to grow old. He didn't get a meaningful death.
He got a random one, just like everyone does, eventually. But in the 46 years he lived with an intensity that most people never touch. He loved, he wrote, he fought, he swam in the sun, he pushed his boulder with everything he had. And when the boulder fell, when his life ended suddenly, senselessly, unfairly, it didn't erase the fact that he had lived. That's all absurdism promises. Not that your boulder will stay at the top, not that your life will mean something in the end, just that the push, the effort, the struggle, the intensity of being alive is enough. So, here you are. You have a boulder. Maybe it's your job, maybe it's a relationship, maybe it's just the daily grind of being alive, waking up, going through the motions, wondering what it's all for. You've been pushing it your whole life, and it keeps rolling back. You've tried to make it mean something, told yourself stories, this is building towards something, this is important, this matters in the grand scheme. But the boulder doesn't care about your stories, it rolls back anyway. So you have a choice. You can keep hoping that one day, if you just push hard enough, the boulder will stay, that one day it will all make sense, that one day you'll reach the top and find meaning waiting for you. But it won't. You know this somewhere deep down. The boulder will always fall. Or you can stop hoping, not in despair, not in defeat, but in acceptance. You can see the boulder for what it is, an absurd task in an indifferent universe that owes you nothing. And then, here's the radical part. You can choose to push it anyway. Not because it will get you somewhere, not because it will mean something, not because anyone is watching or judging or keeping score, but because this is your boulder, and you are alive. And the feeling of your hands on the stone, the strain in your back, the sweat on your face, the view from the summit before it falls, that is real, that is yours, that is enough. Camus wrote, "The struggle itself toward the heights is enough to fill a man's heart. Not the arrival, not the success, not the meaning, the struggle. And if you can find joy in that, if you can push your boulder fully aware that it will fall, and push it with intensity, with passion, with everything you have, then you are free. Free from the tyranny of hope, free from the paralysis of nihilism, free from the need for your life to be anything other than what it is. A brief, absurd, beautiful struggle against the inevitable. You wake up tomorrow. The boulder is at the bottom of the mountain again, and you walk down to meet it, and you push. Tomorrow, the alarm will scream again. The inbox will fill again. The boulder will roll again. But maybe this time, you'll smile as you push. One must imagine Sisyphus happy. One must imagine you happy. Not because the boulder will stay, but because the push is yours. Are you living absurdly?